Should we do new releases?
Sure.
Or talk more about Perfect Match?
No,
I told
think
Mr. Chibi all about it.
I think we're good.
Okay. The new Destiny thing came out.
I know people seem to really like it. Can you
but
believe
also
that game
not.
is?
I see people that also don't like it.
Oh, really? Can you believe that game is 9 years old and still relevant?
I guess, yeah, it's making money.
Yeah, no, that's crazy. I mean, good for them. It's pretty impressive.
I know their art design. Every time I see it, still I'm like, oh, that looks cool.
Yeah, I agree.
So, yeah, like that. I don't know. Somehow they made a space character like that. There's not that much customization, but every one of them still looks like cool. Right? Like it's not easy to pull off for a lot of games. A lot of games wanted to be Destiny.
Yep. And yet, Destiny was the one that kind of pulled it off.
Right.
Mm.
I don't know if they could. Do you think, like, are they just going to do Destiny 2 forever?
I think they're going to do Destiny 2. Yeah, I think they'll do Destiny 2 as long as they can. If they ever change it to Destiny 3, I think it would still just be Destiny 2, just with a new coat of paint, maybe, and more stuff added to what's already there. I don't think they would tell people at this point after 9 years. I don't think they're going to tell people they have to start all over again.
Right. I think this was like my game of the year, like, I don't know, 7 years ago or something.
9 years ago.
Still making it happen.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't played it in so long.
But Destiny, I mean, the other thing is Destiny 2 is also the reason why so many companies are trying to make a Destiny 2, because they want to be able to make one game for 9 years and make a lot of money and not have to keep churning out new stuff, without. Yeah.
No, and games, it's very hard to do, as we've seen. Like,
yep,
it's almost impossible. It
is nearly impossible. You could count the amount of games you could do that.
Yep.
The amount of games that have succeeded at that, you could count on one hand.
Yep. What else we got?
Blood Bowl 3. Did we all get copies of Blood Bowl 3?
No. Maybe. I don't know. It's possible. There's a lot of emails in this email box.
Oh, well, if you did, let me know.
Sorry, that's from the colonoscopy, the extra burps and farts.
Settlers of Catan for consoles. Anyone play that?
No.
A long time ago, I did.
Yeah.
When it was on Xbox Live Arcade.
Yeah, I remember that. Okay, so I'm not crazy. That did come out before, right?
Absolutely, it did. It was an Xbox Live Arcade game.
So why is it out now and they're acting like it's something new and unique?
They probably made it new and unique.
That sounds like bullshit to me. Yeah, that's all I got. Loot Box Life Plus.
Octopath Traveler 2 came out.
Yes.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. I know I played some of the first, but just didn't stick with it. But
I think it's getting positive reviews.
Yeah, I'm sure it's very good. It's is this what's caused the controversy?
No.
With the JRPG stuff?
No.
It was something else.
We'll get to that in a minute. I think we're almost there.
So I can still, before we get to that, I can still call this a good JRPG?
I don't know. Maybe. No. I do know, actually.
How about the Bit Trip collection? That interests me for $10 on Switch.
Sure, so enjoy that.
Yeah.
I liked those Bit Trip games.
I know you do.
I'm glad.
Mm-hmm.
What else?
Thank you.
I'm glad you get to experience them more.
So many Switch games.
Pillars of the Earth? What is that? A text adventure based on the book? Or a graphic adventure or something? You ever read that? Pillars of the Earth?
Nope.
Like a big fantasy series. Anyway.
I don't know how to read.
We forgot this. Are we done with the new releases?
Sure, we can be done.
Cool. There's some big shopping news this week that Wombat actually texted me about this morning, that if you're a Verizon wireless customer, you can get an Xbox Series S for half off. What is that, $150?
Yeah, $150. Mm-hmm.
And you bought one or no?
I did.
Nice.
I ended up getting one too.
What? You talk shit about it and then you bought one.
We both talked shit about it at one point, but as something else.
Right.
Yeah, $150. I don't know. I can
it's a good DVD player.
I can deploy it somewhere.
Right.
It might go in. Yeah, I was gonna say it may go in the bedroom.
Right. The controller itself is worth $60.
That was part of that was part of the reasoning. I went and looked at it. I'm like, I could always use another controller, and I don't know. Dash plays a lot of games upstairs on the old Xbox, and a lot of them are digital, and some of them, those Monster Jam games have like 3.5 minute load times on the original Xbox. So
this kid's got shit to do. He can't be waiting.
Exactly. We got to.
It'll be like,
he's got some dicks to make.
A revelation to not have those.
Right.
He's got to present some dicks to his fellow students the next day. He can't be waiting. This is taking away from his creative dick making.
He's got to diagram those dicks on some blueprints, and yeah.
So yeah, that's a pretty good deal, actually. All right, let's do Wombat's Fortnightly News.
All right.
Maybe we can skip some of these.
Okay, we will.
Which ones do you like?
Well, I was just going to say that the next season of Fortnite is next week, so that should be very exciting. The big leak is that a character from Attack on Titan is going to be in the Battle Pass. I don't know anything about Attack on Titan, so that's all I have to say about that.
That's the one with the big giants.
Yeah, it's not. It's like one of the human characters, I guess. I don't know. It doesn't.
Giant killer.
It doesn't mean much to me, but if you're into that, that's something that should get you very excited. All right, let's see. Do you want to skip? What else do you want to skip here?
I don't know. I sent this JRPG thing to
I was
Mrs.
say you're
Chibi.
the one who wants to talk about that. So
it's kind of not that interesting, really. It's really, I don't know. It's a bunch of like, I don't know. I don't even want to talk about it. It's pretty dumb. It was basically the producer of Final Fantasy was responding to an interview about somebody asked him like the differences between JRPGs and Western RPGs. And he talked about how at some points, like the JRPG in Japan, at least for the developers, had a negative connotation because maybe back then the games weren't as strong or something.
They were stronger. They were just
I didn't quite understand. I have a feeling there might be some like lost in translation here, or also like he seems to really only be talking about Western media and the use of the term JRPG.
I mean, they don't call them JRPGs in Japan, do they?
They do, actually. He says they don't, but I put Mrs. Cheapy on this because, like, you kind of have to. And she says, yeah, that term is used in Japan, but also, like, she found, like, a year earlier, like, Kotaku wrote an article about this guy, Yoshida, and how he doesn't put enough people of color in the games, or especially the new Final Fantasy game that's coming out. And they, basically accused like the developers of being racist for not putting, for having white Europeans in the game and Japanese people in the game. So I think like his response about this whole JRPG thing is, this is what Mrs. Cheapy said. She thinks his response about this whole JRPG thing is mostly about sort of snubbing them in like the previous year and like sort of butting in where they don't think like the Western media even like belongs. I don't think like the reality is they don't give a shit if people say something's a JRPG or not, but they consider their game an RPG. Just like, in France, they don't consider French fries, they call them like fried potatoes or frites or whatever.
Pommes frites.
Right. So it's like the same thing. Like, they would just call like they don't call it Japanese food in Japan. They call it food, Well, actually, they do call it Japanese food in Japan. That doesn't work. But
don't they call it,
Nihon Ryori? They do actually has a term for that.
It's just when that term came about, it was like there was very clear like differences in the genres,
and also they were generally speaking RPGs from Japan.
Yeah, made for Japan, Japanese people. Also,
so to call it a JRPG,
those were turn-based. Like,
yes,
they were turn-based, party-based.
You knew what that meant. You knew what the game was when you said that.
Where they were 2D,
right?
And
lots of text.
Lots of text. Where the Western RPGs at that time were mainly on computers, had a lot of customization to them. They had a lot of text as well, but you didn't have. Like there was more real time or strategy type combat rather than just strictly select a spell or an attack. And
they were less weird. The Western games were less weird, I would say.
I would say they were more
maybe
boring.
slightly less creative. Yeah, I was going to say
you say less weird. I would say
not a bad thing.
More boring.
Yeah,
right,
yeah. I'm less creative. I could
time.
say
it's Diablo. I guess would be
sure,
sort of or Baldur's Gate or something like that.
But today, I haven't played a Final Fantasy game in like a few minutes, but I would imagine like Final Fantasy is like a full blown thing now, and it doesn't really have much to do with those games. Like,
correct, it doesn't, but it's still got a interesting combat style. At least the last, I think I played the last one, 15 or whatever it was. I don't remember what we're on now.
Right.
The one where they're driving around in the big black car. And
I
that one had real time combat, kind of. It was like you held down a button and they attacked in real time. Yeah.
So it doesn't really to me, that doesn't trigger like what I feel like a JRPG is. I think of like an older, it fits the mold of the game from back in the day. I don't know if it has much meaning today just because it comes from Japan.
Yeah. It doesn't mean like, I don't consider the modern Final Fantasies JRPGs in that sense. Like it's still an RPG, but it's a modern RPG.
Is it a modern Japanese RPG?
Maybe, but they're not as shoehorned as they were back then, right?
I don't know.
But it certainly is a Japanese RPG because it's made in Japan by Japanese people.
Japanese people, yeah. It's not like you're saying something so crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, if you say
they're broader than they were back then, though. Like when this was a thing, like early 90s.
Yes.
And like everything was like,
you knew what you were getting.
Exactly what you were getting.
Yes.
Right. It was just different levels of quality of that. And every once in a while you'd get something slightly weird, like a Vagrant story type of thing where it mixed up and it's like, oh, this is turn-based still, but now I'm attacking like specific body parts.
Right.
Like there's variations on it.
Yes. So again, this seems like, I don't know. Then there was like a whole other thing with like, you can't say that a game is very Japanese if it's in like a negative context because it's racist. Did you see that? I sent that to you. I put Mrs. Cheapy on that too. She was very interested in that.
I saw it. I don't know if it's up to the person who thinks it's racist or not. So I don't have an opinion.
That was a misunderstanding.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't have an opinion on if you call something very Japanese, it's all in the context that you're saying it. Like if I call sushi very Japanese.
Well, in this case,
is that racist? I don't think so.
In this case, it was a tweet from Arthur Guys from like, was that how you say his last name? I don't even know. Guys, but it was from like, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago. And he gave a quick like review of Vanquish on Twitter.
Sure.
When even like the character limit was like was less, I think. But anyway, he didn't like the game and he said it was very Japanese. He didn't say, like he said it was, I forgot what he said, but something like it was clumsy or what, I don't know, but very Japanese. Now, I don't think that's like an insult on the culture of Japan or the Japanese people to say that a game has similar elements to previous, or forget it's a game, it's a fucking product that sits on a store shelf. To say that a product that a country produces is similar to their other products that they produced in the past, and it's not, or rather it's not a good version of that product, right? Because you could say something is very Japanese, but also in a positive, we really liked it, it's very Japanese. Sure. And people would probably understand what you meant without saying anything. They would say like, oh, it must be like pretty wild, colorful. I don't know.
There's a lot that goes into that things. When you say that in your mind, right? Like it's
sort of like
game mechanics too, that it's like this
Balan Wonderland is what comes to mind when I think of a game that's very Japanese, but
in a negative way, you mean?
In all the wrong way.
Okay.
Is it Japanese? It better be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know
like the buttons just weren't the controls just weren't right for the type of game that it wanted to be. The cutscenes were very outrageous, and it just didn't have that structure that I think maybe a Western person might be expecting from a game that has that kind of platform style on its outset. and to me that felt very Japanese in the way that the game was structured. And it is a Japanese game made by Japanese people, so I think that is accurate. I think it's fair.
Gene Park would disagree with you.
Well, that's fair enough too.
Mrs. Chibi, I put Mrs. Chibi on it. Her pet peeve is fake internet outrage. Nothing gets her going more than fake internet outrage. And so the first thing she does on something like this is she's like, are there any Japanese people involved in this discussion? And she quickly came up with no, there isn't any. And she's like, this is dumb. I don't understand why people are getting upset on behalf of Japanese people. It's really she doesn't get it. How are people spending their time?
Right. And yeah, it's all in the context, of course, but I mean, it's also it's part of their culture. Japan's culture is their style of game, and they're one of the best countries in the world of making games. There's no doubt about that, right? So,
and they're not all going to be great. And you can, and when you say that one comes out that isn't great and it's very Japanese, we can infer what that means. I mean, we don't think it means that the developers are inferior, DNA wise. It's the product didn't come out great. Right. And it has some failings that previous games had. It could either
be it didn't come out great, or it doesn't translate well to the Western market, the person who's talking about it, right?
It's made for Japanese people.
Yeah, this is just this doesn't make sense to the majority of people in the West.
If a German car magazine reviewed whatever the latest American car is, and in the review they said they didn't like the car, it's a very American car, everybody would know what that meant, right? Mm-hmm. And not a single American would be offended. They would be
I wouldn't go that far.
Analogy.
Okay, these days, today in 2023, people would be offended, but you can see how ridiculous. It's not a comment on the people that made the car. Look, it's a product that they put out for Americans that they think Americans are going to buy. It may not translate well elsewhere.
Yeah,
and it just may not be a good version of it.
If you're playing a game, or you're even watching a video game, whatever, you have, at least I have a pretty good idea. I think I would be able to guess, is this a game that was made in North America? Is this a game that was made in Europe? Or is this a game that was made in Japan?
Yes.
Right?
That is something that most people who play a lot of video games.
Canada is in North America.
You said North America. You did say North America. Yeah. I take it back. I'm sorry.
Most big gamers would be able to make that distinction upon playing a game.
Yeah, the Canada thing gets a little bit iffy just because of the Ubisoft.
There's a heavy French influence on those some of those Canadian games.